That was insane! Suge Knight gave everyone a warning about how wild prison can get, and now it feels like he straight up predicted what was coming for him. The founder of Death Row Records just got stabbed in a brutal prison attack, and word is, it's all connected to the secrets he's been spilling. What was he trying to expose? And who wanted him silenced that bad? Let's get into it. The entire hip-hop world was shaken by this one. Suge Knight, one of the most feared names in rap history, just became another target behind bars. It all went down one night in June. According to one source, the lights in C Block were already off when, out of nowhere, someone slipped into Suge's cell and launched a violent ambush. No one's saying how it even happened. To really understand why this went down, you gotta know who Suge Knight really was. Not just to hip-hop, but to the whole underground world of American fame and power. Suge wasn't just some street guy who lucked out on a record deal. Nah! Suge Knight was the boogeyman of rap. Even the top dogs were scared of him. Born and raised in Compton, Suge started off playing football, but soon stepped into the streets, working muscle jobs around LA. But when he linked up with Dr. Dre, right after Dre bounced from Eazy-E's Ruthless Records, things changed fast. That's when Death Row Records was born. What started as a tiny label blew up quick. Death Row took over the West Coast, and Suge wasn't playing friendly. That label? It wasn't just a business, it was a whole empire. And Suge ran it like a boss. By 1994, Death Row was making over $100 million a year, with rap giants like Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Nate Dogg, and Tha Dog Pound. Straight all-star squad. But behind the scenes, it was chaos. People say Suge ruled with threats and fear. There were non-stop stories, fights, intimidation, wild scenes. One of the most famous? Suge allegedly held Vanilla Ice over a hotel balcony over a money issue. He used to roll up to clubs with a squad 15 deep, shutting down spots and teaching people lessons the hard way. But by the mid-2000s, Death Row was done, bankrupt. And Suge, he was buried in court cases, assaults, lawsuits, probation issues. It all piled up. Then came the infamous 2015 hit and run on the set of Straight Outta Compton. Suge ran over 2 men with his truck, killing one. That one landed him 28 years at Donovan. Everyone thought that'd be the end of him, but they were wrong. Even locked up, Suge wasn't staying quiet. And then came the phone call that sparked everything. January 2024, Suge Knight, sitting inside R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility, grabbed the prison phone.
There's somebody taught him that, and that's more deep in the industry. You guys who got involved with a lot of people who was their mentors, instead of having a guy to mentor your own father, they was having these guys they mentored. And when that happens in the industry, it was done to them, they do to the next person. So,
and made a collect call that shook the entire hip-hop game. Suge Knight wasn't playing it safe. He took it straight to the PBD podcast. Most inmates doing serious time keep their heads down. They don't talk to media, don't stir up the past.
Number one was Clyde Davis. And you got to understand one thing. If Death Row, when I started Death Row, you got to remember one thing. I didn't have no co-climb and nobody else. So I started that company on my own and grabbed Dr. Dre.
But Suge, he's never followed the rules. He knew how this game works. In hip-hop's power circle, staying quiet gets you buried fast. So when Suge picked up that phone, he didn't hold back. He went off with raw, unfiltered heat. He aired out decades of secrets, and what he said, it wasn't just loose talk. He came with names, receipts, and straight-up challenges. He dared the industry to come for him. It started calm.
He's definitely going to be the black man to hold the bag. Because you gotta realize one thing. That boy life is dangerous. His life isn't, he's just not dangerous with the shit they said he was doing, but he's in danger. He know too much.
Suge reminiscing about the old Death Row days. But when the topic shifted to Diddy,
he probably having a conversation right now with the higher-ups and everybody else to figure out how it's going to work itself out, because he know all the secrets. And if he get to run his mouth, it could be a bad look.
Boom! First bomb dropped. Suge claimed Diddy didn't learn all those slick industry moves on his own. Nah, he was taught, Suge said. According to him, Some real powerful folks in the game mentored Diddy and showed him how to move in the shadows. Now Diddy's stepping into that same role, becoming the kind of figure that once shaped him. But Suge didn't stop there. Moments later, he threw another shot, this time at one of the biggest names in entertainment history. If you know how the industry works, you know the name Clive Davis ain't tossed around lightly. He's a music legend, launching careers, covering scandals, and according to Suge, deciding who makes it out and who gets cut off. And if you thought that was the wildest part, you're way off. Suge went even deeper. Less than an hour in, he started calling out the entire hip-hop elite, saying they move like a secret club, silencing anyone who won't play by the rules. And worse, Suge claimed Diddy himself is in danger. Not for what he's done, but for what he knows. In danger. He know too much. That wasn't just some old-school gangster talking crazy. That was a man who had once protected the secrets, and now was exposing them live. Suge may have been calling out Diddy, but he didn't realize his own mouth might have signed his ticket to danger too. And then it happened. Just after 10:40 p.m., inside C Block, Unit 5, at R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility, a medium security prison sitting on the edge of San Diego, things got real. The yard was shut down, lights low, end-of-night routines kicking in, inmates locking up, guards doing rounds, doors sliding shut one by one, but something felt off. According to an anonymous corrections officer quoted by Hip Hop Unfiltered, one cell door stayed open, just a little too long. The cell belonged to inmate D 3095, Marion Hughes Suge Knight. That door? It should have been shut tight in under 30 seconds. Instead, it stayed open 2.5 minutes. That don't happen by mistake. That's a setup.
It's Puffy, that's the way I think to them. Shit, they ain't tripping. But if you don't stop the cycle, it's going to keep happening.
Right in that small window, someone slipped inside. Face covered, gloves on, no ID, no name, a ghost in the dark. Nearby inmates later told Vlad TV what they heard. We heard a thud, then two. Then you just knew someone got hit real bad. No yelling, just that ugly sound when ribs snap. Another witness said Suge's only lifeline, the prison phone, was suddenly down for maintenance in C Block just minutes after the hit. Then, silence. The attacker vanished without a trace. Security cameras? Supposedly working. But that night, the feed went static from 10:38 to 10:46 p.m. Glitch or cover-up? One correctional staffer told Hip Hop DX, they ain't want that going public. That would have been bad for business, bad for the feds, bad for everybody. And just like that, the king of death row was left broken in his cell, face gashed, ribs crushed, blood on the concrete. The system moved fast. Within the hour, Suge was rushed to the prison's medical unit. 3 known death row affiliates locked up in Donovan were either shipped out or tossed into the hole. And the official C Block security log? Wiped clean. Phone records showed 2 outside calls, and both were manually deleted by morning. One inside source told Vlad TV, somebody pulled rank. That's why it never made headlines. They had 2 teams, one to hit, one to clean up. But even if the media didn't catch on, the streets did. By sunrise, the message was moving through the West Coast prison yards. From Pelican Bay to Lancaster, the big homie got touched. Everything about to shift. At this point, it's no secret, Suge Knight had more enemies than allies. His rise to the top left a trail of bodies, betrayal, and bitter payback. But folks forget, some of those grudges run deep and they ain't died out. Diddy, Clive Davis.
Even when you speak on Snoop, people can say, well, are you picking on Snoop? Absolutely not. Snoop is picking on Snoop. Everybody say, Snoop, you had involvement in it. We're not trying to put you in prison. I don't want you to go to prison. Can't nobody put you in prison. You connected to those folks. And you Trump's little bitch. But why you just don't set the record straight?
Jimmy Iovine. Ex-death row hitters turned informants. Every one of them had a reason to feel threatened by what Suge still knew, and what he might be crazy enough to say. especially after that wild PBD podcast call. See, Suge wasn't just ranting, he was throwing real threats, promising to expose how deep the entertainment game is tied to street crime, fed handlers, and dirty money. A West Coast industry vet speaking off record to Hip Hop DX dropped this: Suge ain't made music in years, but he's still sitting on stuff.
What you did is the weirdest bitch I ever met in my life. Naturally, I'm in jail. Naturally, I'm in prison. So when the corporation of the name Death Row, they didn't pay the fees to keep it going, you went and got the name and asked your boss.
Murder files, contract deals, and secret cash plays going way back to the Pac and Big era. And now, he's too reckless to stay quiet.
True story. Drake came to me because I'm not going to go into the situation what they was on about. It's reckless. I said, well, something like that. It's like old Hollywood. You got to get married quickly. He wanted to marry this person. That person didn't want to. I can get this new person. He married them. One day, Drake came to me and said, I'm never going to cuss on albums again. I'm never going to talk about women again. And he told me that he wanted to be white.
The whole energy inside Donovan shifted. Gang politics flipped overnight. OG blood sets, once ride or die for death row, went quiet. Not a word. And then came a surprise move. A top-tier Crip shot caller from another yard suddenly transferred out. No reason, no heads up. Within days.
So when Eric finally get there, the guard calls up. He says, easy up here for Dre. Let him up. He got the guard. You know what's up there? So that's Dre. So he walks in the studio. You see me, you see a few people. We start talking. I said, man, he ain't coming, but I'm going to talk to you about it. I showed him the pictures of all the artists I had on one piece and the 3 I had on another piece. I was like...
Suge Knight's name wasn't even whispered anymore. Inside Donovan, a new code had been enforced. One inmate told it straight. When the boss moves in silence, you don't speak on it.
I seen one of the saddest things I ever seen in a man. I'm looking at Easy, Eric, like, he said, I bought a car, I did all this for him, it wasn't for me, he didn't do nothing. And it's like he trying to hold back the tears because he don't want to be embarrassed by me seeing him crying. Because he crying because he's scared or he crying because he hurt before another man.
And this was one of those moves. Now you could chalk this up to some old street beef.
When I answered the phone, I'm talking to him. I said, he getting ready to come up here now. What you want done again? He was like, man, shoot that head, blow his head off, shoot him in the eye, take pictures of it. You don't got one of those things, you know, blah, 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 you put a phone shit, you know. Get one of those portable cameras and let me see it, I want to see it, you know, blah, blah.
Or typical prison politics. But when you line everything up, the podcast call, the stabbing, the media blackout, and all the fast cover-ups, the pattern screams loud. This wasn't random. Suge shook too many trees, and the whole industry felt it. Because that podcast, that wasn't a one-time outburst. Suge had been running his mouth for months, dropping names, exposing the past, and threatening to tear down some of the biggest legends in the rap game. And he was doing it straight from behind bars, on his podcast, Collect Call with Suge Knight. Launched in October 2023, this was Suge's platform to blow the lid off what he claims is the real story behind hip-hop's biggest icons. Every episode, pure smoke, betrayals, lies, and behind-the-scenes snakes. He painted the industry as one big illusion, where loyalty got sold out for fame and power. And Suge wasn't talking about nobodies. He was coming straight for his old death row fam, especially Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Two dudes Suge helped turn from street-level artists to global superstars with crazy money and major respect. But Suge says all that success came with a price, a betrayal of everything death row stood for. But the real tension? That's with Snoop Dogg. This ain't just industry shade. This beef cuts deep. We're talking betrayal, loyalty, secrets, and stuff that's way darker than music deals. You can hear the pain and heat in Suge's voice when he speaks on Snoop. It's personal. He's not just saying Snoop lied about their history. He's hinting at something way heavier. Suge straight up suggests Snoop's been working with law enforcement and that he's protected in ways the rest of the crew never were. That kind of talk, it hits hard in the street code. Saying someone's connected to those folks carries serious weight, It's like saying their freedom came at the cost of loyalty.
You know how crushed my mother would have been if I would have died? I could have. So when you get people who was not there, didn't know us, and say, I grabbed Tupac and used to shield, or this happened, how do you know these details, whoever you are, if you was not there?
And the rest of the crew paid the price. The feeling of betrayal. It's all over Suge Knight's voice, especially when he talks about how Snoop and others have rewritten the death row legacy. According to Suge, they've been pushing him out the story, minimizing his role while hyping up their own moves like they built the empire alone. But it didn't stop with Snoop. When Suge turned to Dr. Dre, the story got way more personal and way more explosive. Their partnership once birthed some of the most legendary tracks in hip-hop. But now, Suge paints Dre as a man fighting deep identity issues.
Eventually, it cost him his life. Eventually, you have guys who will speak about Tupac who never met him. They say they was with Death Row, never were there. Or they might have been security for Death Row or the car wash in Death Row. They never met Pac, and they would say the most negative things about Tupac. They have to tell Tupac stories.
Even saying Dre came to him during private moments, looking for advice and direction during personal struggles. The fact that Suge aired out these sensitive details, it says one of two things. Either their friendship is fully destroyed, or Suge is on a mission to burn Dre's reputation to the ground. Either way, it ain't just about business anymore. This is betrayal on a soul-deep level. And then comes the Eazy-E situation. Suge claims Dre was playing both sides. According to him, Dre pretended to be cool with Eazy, all while secretly working to take him down. Suge said Dre was plotting behind the scenes to wipe Eazy out, even suggesting that he had a violent setup in the works. The wildest part? Suge says there's actual photos backing up this claim, proof that Dre was planning to have Eazy-E murked. If that's real, it completely flips the history we thought we knew about NWA and what really happened to Eazy-E before his death from AIDS-related complications. Suge's not just calling out individuals. He's calling out the entire culture shift. In his eyes, today's hip-hop scene is the result of fake systems winning over real street culture. The same culture he helped drag into the spotlight. And it doesn't stop with Dre or Snoop. Suge has got ongoing beef with Wack 100 and Reggie Wright Jr. too. Their drama plays out across social media. And it's clear Suge feels betrayed not just by the big names, but also by former insiders.
Well, you talked about an incident with Suge and Mob James' late brother, Voluntary.
Yeah.
They got into a fight, I guess, at Bar 1.
Yeah,
in Hollywood.
Bar 1. Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
What happened?
I was on the other side of the room, but that boy Bruce Richardson beat their ass. You know what I'm saying?
I guess he knew karate?
Yeah. Bad. He beat their ass, beat both of their ass.
Who he says lied about their roles in building Death Row. The ripple effect of Suge's claims? Massive. Even if just a piece of what he's saying is true, it means some of hip-hop's most loved and celebrated figures might have built their empires on straight-up lies, betrayal, and moves that go completely against the street code image they've been selling to the world. To hip-hop fans and insiders watching from the sidelines, Suge Knight's podcast is either a bold truth-telling mission or a bitter man's final swing before the curtain closes. He's taking shots at everybody. Dre, Diddy, Clive Davis, Snoop.
You left Malik for dead. You left a security named Kenny for dead when he got shot in the back behind you. Because the fact that the real thing is so much money was paid out of my pocket and your participation.
No one's been safe, but there's one topic that still makes folks drop their voice to a whisper. The real story behind what went down in Vegas, the night Tupac Shakur was gunned down while riding in Suge Knight's car. This might be Suge's most dangerous secret. Out of all the beefs, gang ties, and wild allegations hanging over his name, none carry more heat or risk than the still unanswered questions about his role in Pac's murder. The official version, it's hip-hop history now.
Well, one, I could know who killed me, I just don't know. But the thing about this, it was a real sad day, not just for Biggie, but for his family, but for the culture of hip-hop. I think that destroyed hip-hop with those two muggers.
Suge and Tupac had just left the Tyson fight at the MGM Grand when shots rang out in a drive-by. Pac took the worst of it and died 6 days later. Suge walked away with minor injuries. But over the years, Suge's own words about that night, they've been full of contradictions and strange details, enough to keep conspiracy theories alive and strong for nearly 30 years. And these aren't just harmless rumors. The stuff Suge says and the way he reacts could still get him in real trouble. Whether it's law enforcement watching or people on the street who still want answers. You can hear it in his tone when Pac's name comes up. Suge gets defensive. Real quick. It's clear he knows there's people out there who believe he played a part in what happened to Tupac.
Yeah, man, tell your life, tell your story. We still will never be the same without Tupac and Biggie. And I'm going to end it here because I knew Pac and Biggie loved each other. When I was in the hotel, Pac in the hotel, and he talking to Biggie before Pac passed away, he wasn't mad at Biggie like, I hate this motherfucker. He was more hurt because he felt that Biggie had something to do with the shit in the studio.
And when Suge claps back like, how would you even know the details if you weren't there? It sounds like a man who's either tired of lies or trying to push the spotlight off himself. What's wild is the duality of their relationship. Suge was the one who got Pac out of prison, put him in the booth, and helped create some of the most iconic music ever. But at the same time, their bond was built on need, and that mix of loyalty, pressure, and power may have been deadly in the end. Suge gets real agitated when people claim they know Tupac but never met him. You can tell he still feels possessive over Pac's memory, like only he has the right to speak on it. But here's the twist. The very night Tupac was killed started with Suge. It was Suge who sparked that confrontation inside the MGM Grand hours before the shooting. So when people connect the dots, the questions don't just fade, they multiply. What really happened that night? Who knew what? And is Suge holding back truths that could still shake hip-hop to its core? Suge Knight and Tupac were caught on camera putting hands on Orlando Anderson, a suspected Crip, right there in the MGM casino lobby. That beatdown, seen by everybody on security footage, is believed to be the spark that lit the fuse for what went down later that night. But here's where things get real messy. What makes Suge's situation extra dangerous now is that more and more evidence is piling up, and it's pointing to something way deeper than just gang payback. Multiple sources now say the hit on Tupac might have been orchestrated by people inside Suge's own circle. Former LAPD detective Greg Kading ran an investigation that connected all kinds of dots, not just street beef, but money problems, power moves, and straight-up backstabbing. One angle that really messes up Suge's innocence claims? The insurance. Yup, the money trail. If Suge was bleeding cash, and Tupac was starting to push back and become harder to control, then Pac's death would have solved multiple problems. And with the right policy in place, that could have meant a big payday. And Suge's money problems didn't magically disappear. In fact, they only got worse. Back in March 2025, he tried to get his 28-year sentence overturned, and the judge shut it down. His legal issues just keep stacking up. To some, it paints a picture. Suge has always made decisions with money in mind, no matter the cost. But maybe the heaviest blow of all comes from someone who used to be on the inside. Keith D, a key witness in the Tupac case, stepped up with detailed stories that made Suge look real bad. He didn't just spill tea, he gave the whole pot. From Suge's shady moves to the violent chaos around death row, Keith D painted a picture of a man who wasn't untouchable, just reckless. He even talked about Suge losing fights and looking vulnerable, breaking down that tough guy image Suge spent years building. But more than that, Keith D's inside knowledge of Suge's connections, habits, and mindset makes his testimony about Pac's murder hit different. It feels real. It feels close. And every time new info about Tupac's death drops, it seems to back Suge into a tighter corner. Whether it's evidence, court statements, or witness stories, it all starts pointing toward him. Maybe he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but being the only person in that car who survived. Plus, his violent past and financial mess, it's all starting to look real suspect. When Suge Knight gets asked about Biggie's murder, the emotion in his voice says it all. He admits he might know who did it, but refuses to say more. That could mean two things. Either he's truly in the dock, or he's choosing to stay silent to avoid dragging himself, or others, straight into the fire. Even from behind bars, the heat hasn't let up. The unsolved murders of Tupac and Biggie still haunt the culture, and new witnesses, new tips, and even advanced forensic tools keep turning up fresh leads, and all eyes keep swinging back to one man, Suge Knight. His 28-year sentence? That basically locks him in for life, unless he talks. If Suge drops the right names, gives up certain info, he might cut a deal, maybe shave down that sentence. But that kind of move? It don't come without risk. If he talks too much or says the wrong thing, there's people out there who'll do whatever it takes to shut him up. That's what makes his situation so tense. The big question ain't just, what does Suge Knight know about Tupac's murder? The real question is, how long can he survive to tell it? If Suge was directly involved in what happened to Pac, confessing now might give fans and family some closure, but it could also bring new charges and end his story for good. If he was just sloppy, or looked the other way when things went left, speaking out could still destroy his legacy without helping his case one bit. So what's he gonna do? Stay loyal and silent, or flip the script to save himself? Because let's be real, in this industry, careers were built on lies, and people got buried to protect them. Suge's voice, loud as ever on every call and every podcast, is a reminder that this game been dirty from the start. And now, every name he drops sends shockwaves. Whether he's exposing the truth, twisting it for power, or just playing a final hand, one thing's clear. Suge Knight still has enough heat to shake the entire game. And that might be exactly what gets him silenced. For good. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Suge is telling the truth, or just trying to stay relevant? Either way, this story ain't over. See you on the next one.